today about some singer self-care, which I think is more important now than ever, honestly. I think that our focus as singers maybe has to shift a little bit as we're in this really unprecedented, strange time in history. And it's always a relevant topic, but I think it's particularly relevant now, but also with a slightly different twist. Than I've given this talk many, many times, and there are a few things that I think are particularly important to us that I want to emphasize. So there are some basics that we all know. When we're talking about self-care, there are some basics that all humans need to do, right? Hydration, rest, move around, get some exercise. We're not going to delve too deeply into those because I know you guys all know that. Hydration is one of the most critical things for singers to keep yourself healthy. One of the challenges that I'm seeing right now in myself and also in my students, because even though I can't meet in person with my students, we're still meeting like this via Zoom or FaceTime. And every week we start with, okay, how was your week? How is it going? What are your challenges? That's how I always like to start the lesson. What are your challenges? What are your successes? Because I want to know where their frame of mind is, right? That's a really, really important thing to do, because if you want to, in a lesson, if you're trying to learn and you're not in a learning place, that's a problem. So we need to make sure that people are in a good spot. And one of the biggest challenges I'm finding is because our routines have all been like thrown up in the air. 52 card pickup, those of you that know what that is, it's like everything's just like blah, 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 blah. So I had 2 students this week try to call in at their lesson time on the wrong day. I thought was hilarious too. And they were back to back, actually. My Wednesday lessons back to back, but they tried to both call me on Tuesday, which is hilarious. But because our routines are so up in the air, we're sleeping in the day, we're up at night, when do we eat, when do we shower, all these normal routine things that we don't have to think about now are just completely blown up. And with that, whatever routine, whatever schedule you had established that allowed for you to stay hydrated has probably also gone out the window. So I know for me particularly, I had this whole thing where in between students I would have a glass of water all day long. So I pee a lot, and you're supposed to pee pale is what they say. If you're not drinking enough water, that your urine is very, very light colored or even clear, then you're not drinking enough. And for singers, I believe that you have to go even a little bit more, because our vocal folds are very, especially if you're vocalizing a lot, the vocal folds themselves are very susceptible to drying out, which is the #1 cause of vocal injury, by the way, is singing when your cords are dehydrated. We don't want that. So my schedule now, because my students that used to come in at these predetermined times, that schedule's all out the window too. Because my high schoolers are homeschooling, and my college kids now, usually they would come after school, but now they can come during lunch or whatever. And then my professionals are also, because I teach all different ages and ranges, my professionals all their schedule's up in the air too. So because of that, my own schedule's changed, and I'm having to relearn when do I need to remind myself to drink. I know it seems like a really basic thing, but it's so important, you guys. I'm also sleeping less than I normally do, which is weird. At first, I slept a lot those first couple of weeks, and now I'm not, because I've found some things to keep myself busy, but I've kind of swung too far the opposite direction. Oh. So just those are things that you want to keep in mind, specifically for us. Something else that we are all encountering, I think it's fair to say most of us are in a sedentary position more than they are used to, meaning we're sitting a lot more in front of our devices.
Yep.
Yep. Usually in studio when I'm teaching, I'm up, I'm down, I do body work in my session, so I'm like doing physical labor all day long, like lifting people, moving them around, stretching out their arms, things like that. And now I'm sitting in front of a computer. like this, which compresses our spine. It shortens our hip flexors, which influences our diaphragm and our rib movement, which influences how well we breathe, and in a negative way when we're sitting all day. So if anybody's noticing that they're having a harder time breathing, it's probably because we're sitting so much. So stretching, getting up and moving around is more important than ever. I mean, like, it's so, so important right now for us. Specifically, you should be focusing as a singer. The areas that you should be focusing on for stretching is your neck, cervical spine, and there's all sorts of neck stretches, good old-fashioned ones. I have a whole protocol that I do with my students as well. But neck stretches, spine stretches, rib stretches, not just side stretches. You want to stretch out in between your ribs, the little baby intercostals. You want to get them nice and stretchy. And hip stretches, specifically your psoas. But even in your underneath your glutes, all there's all those rotator muscles. And you want to make sure that you're stretching those. I also just recently, in the last few days, I've been playing around with some shoulder stretches because my traps back here have been bothering me, and I'm feeling really tight underneath my collarbone. So, I think it's because, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I'm only seeing a couple of you on the screen because I'm on my phone. So I want to scroll and make sure I can see as many people as are on. But you guys are going to have to give me feedback. But I know when I'm doing these Zoom meetings, it's like I have to fight the urge to do this. Hello? I miss humans. Totally. Right? So we're all kind of going into this head forward position. And that it just does a number on our upper back and shoulder muscles, and also the front of the neck muscles. You hear how my voice changes when I'm in this position as opposed to this position. And long term, that is no bueno for your voice. So, so alignment work is super important. If anybody has ever taken Alexander classes, now would be the time to go back and review that curriculum. There's also, is that what they call text neck? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just head forward posture. It's living like this. It's slightly different now than it was 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, it was people on their phones like this. They're kind of head forward and down. Now it's just head forward towards the screen like that, because we're all like trying to connect, like, I miss you.
That's literally been my life.
100%. And a lot of people are experiencing more headaches.
Totally.
Can I get like hands? Who's experiencing more headaches than they normally do? Yeah. So there's a couple reasons for that. So two things. We're all in front of our computers a lot more, our screens. So eye strain. And you guys probably see I have the blue block glasses on.
Oh yeah.
So normally that helps me, but it's not enough.
Wow.
Like that only does a certain amount, when you're on the computer 14 hours a day,
right,
your eyes are going to get tired, and eye strain and headaches are linked. The optical nerve or the optical muscle, and then there's something, and I'm not an expert on this, but the suboccipital muscles, which are the little tiny muscles at the base of your skull, those are kind of like somehow synergistically in a chain connected to your eye muscles. So when we go like this, we're shortening those little muscles in the back, which are going to also put extra strain on your eyes, and then the eyes being strained from the computer put extra strain on the suboccipitals. So you have this really toxic push-pull kind of a thing going on. Which creates then the headaches. So don't be afraid to get in there and do some massage with your thumbs right at the base of your skull. Do a little stretching and stuff. You'll feel better.
Oh, so great. I got a Theracane. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's a little PSA on that. A couple other things I wanted to mention. Now more than ever, if you do not already have a meditation/mindfulness practice going, now's a really good time to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, meditation, mindfulness, and breathing. Those three things are so important. But I would say that they will only be as effective as your physical body will allow them to be. And that is why stretching is so critical. If your body is tight and in pain, no amount of happy thoughts are going to take you where you need to be in your anxiety level. Yesterday I had a wicked migraine. It was awful. And it was I get they're called mixed headaches, which is tension and mysterious toxic fairy dust. I don't know where the other component comes from, but my body was so tight. And then and I knew, and I just didn't stretch because I don't know why, because sometimes we're self-destructive, right? And then I had a student who I hadn't been able to go over my stretching protocol with her. And so we took 20 minutes of her lesson online and we stretched together. And literally within 15 minutes, I'm like, hey, I'm good. Headache was gone. Energy was back. I was like good to go for the rest of the day. So, which, you know, is another interesting thing. Like, why didn't I just do it preemptively? Why did I have to wait until another student needed it to take care of myself?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. What do they say? They say on the airplane, put your mask on before you're on yourself before you can put it on someone else. It's kind of how I have to live my life.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself, especially if you're a mom or a caregiver. You have to carve out time for yourself. But back to singers. So a couple other things I just want to mention that. So those were all kind of specific for where we're living right now. And the other things that I want to mention, which are kind of relevant seasonally right now, is, you know, right now we have all the rain and everything on the planet is blooming. So our mucus production is perhaps a little higher than normal, right?
Yeah.
And singers in particular, we really struggle with our mucus interfering with our ability to do our job. So there are some really specific things that I recommend for singers that they should investigate and perhaps integrate into their daily life. So one of those things would be nasal irrigation, also known as neti pots. If you haven't tried it, it's a little gross and it's a little like daunting at first because you are literally putting water up your nose. Sorry. But once you do it and you, I always say give it a month. Do it for a month because people try it twice and they're like, I don't feel any different. I'm like, change takes time, people. So you were literally trying to re-landscape the flora and fauna in your nasal passages, which is going to take a little bit of time. You can't just hose it down once and say it's good, right? So you try it for a month, and you will probably be pleasantly surprised. If you are a mucusy person, if you struggle with postnasal drip, if you struggle with like itchy, scratchy throat, if you struggle with acid reflux, a lot of times that is caused by drainage. So if you have postnasal drip and acid reflux, they are almost always connected. Yes, Gretchen.
Me. Have both of those things. Actually, I think my brothers do too. We're a very mucusy family.
Yeah. No, the mucous membranes are strong in you.
They are.
Yeah. So what happens is when you have the postnasal drip, it drips down into your stomach, which then irritates your stomach, which then causes your stomach to go, I'm not happy, let's send more acid. And then the acid will come up and it spurts up, it burns your esophagus, sometimes all the way up into the larynx. And then you can have a real serious vocal injury from that. But so then you now have this burned throat, And what does the throat do to respond to being burned? It says, let's send more mucus. And then the mucus drips down into the stomach. And then the stomach splashes the acid up. And now you've created this, another wonderful toxic cycle of just like, let's try to just make myself miserable.
This is making so much sense to me right now.
Yay! Yay, I'm glad.
That makes sense.
So what nasal irrigation does is it literally sweeps out, it does two things. It sweeps out allergens or viruses, whatever is clinging to the nostril hairs or maybe is on the surface and hasn't actually attached itself to the mucous membrane yet to grow, like viruses and things. And literally it's like hosing down the sidewalk. So you want to imagine like a gross, crusty, boogery sidewalk.
Wow.
It goes down the sidewalk. Now, if it's really thick and dry, then what the nasal irrigation does is it's like soaking it. So it gets it wet, then you let it set for a few minutes, and then the crustiness should be less crusty, and then you can come back and you blow your nose, which is kind of like, you know, like a power wash.
How many times do you do that a week? Do you suggest doing it like every day, or do you like?
I do it every day in the shower.
You do? Okay.
Every day without fail. And I am also very mucusy. And my mucus is pretty thick. It has a very high resistance to movement. Like it does not want to move out of me. So I use something called Alkalol, which you can get over the counter, and you can buy it on Amazon and get it shipped. It's spelled A-L-K-A-L-O-L, Alkalol. And you mix that with saline, and then that is a mucus solvent. Isn't that lovely? It literally dissolves the mucus. So it's like paint thinner.
Yummy.
And it leaves your nose feeling minty fresh.
Oh, can you, someone said, does the temperature of the water in the neti pot matter?
I just use room temperature. I wouldn't recommend cold. Some people like to heat it up. I don't know that there's like studies that show that warm is better than room temperature. Okay.
And then someone says, does it need to be, can you spell alcohol again? I guess I'm thinking maybe.
Alkalol is A-L-K-A-L-O-L.
Cool. And then does it need to be distilled, Renna?
Yes.
Hi, Renna.
It needs to either be highly filtered, like really, really filtered, or distilled or boiled, because there are microbials living in the water. Thank you, Renna, for bringing that up. There are microbials in the water that are fine to drink, but really harmful if they get into your bloodstream through the mucous membrane.
Got it.
So like it can kill you, like it's flesh-eating bacteria and stuff. So you don't want to mess around with that. It doesn't happen often, but you don't want to be the statistical anomaly that gets eaten by the flesh-eating bacteria because they're neti potting. And then you also don't want it to be fresh water. You want it to be saline. You want to add the saline packets to it. And there's instructions.
Right.
Okay. Then the other thing that you can really do to assist in hydration, there's two things. Some people really like to do steaming. And I want to talk just a second about steaming versus nebulizing. A steamer has larger water droplets. And that's going to be like hosing down the sidewalk again, but in a slightly different way. And that will, with the steam, that gets further down your throat. With the neti pot, it goes up one nostril and out the other. With steaming, it's going to be more like the back wall of the throat all the way down. So steaming can be effective. I advocate steaming for mucus. Neti pot, not meticulous. Oh, you're so funny. Yes. Let me see. I can't. Can you read that? It was there.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm reluctant to do meticulous neti pot. Not meticulous. Afraid of using the wrong type of water or not doing it right.
I'm sorry. I can't understand what that means.
I think it's just they're trying to say that they're just a little worried about the saline and doing it right with the water and the alcohol.
Yeah. There are package directions And I actually, autocorrect failed, yeah. I actually have a video on YouTube on how to use how to do the neti pot with the alcohol.
Oh,
so
great.
I think you just look for me, Crystal Barron, on YouTube.
Cool.
And now would be a good time for me to say, follow me and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Crystal Voice Studio. Yeah, Crystal Voice Studio right now I'm not super active because I'm just in survival mode like everybody else, trying to homeschool my 4 kids and figure out how to fill in the gaps with lost income and things. But yeah, there is a neti pot tutorial.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to be watching that.
It has like 14,000 views or something stupid.
Oh my
It's like
God,
my biggest watched video. Yeah, so as long as you follow the package directions and you use clean water, you may end up like choking and coughing the first couple times you try it, but you're not going to hurt yourself.
Okay.
So don't be afraid of the neti pot. Be brave. Now's the time. Be brave. Be courageous. Try it.
Okay.
I'll
do it, Crystal. I'll do it.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yes. So steaming versus nebulizing. So the steamer is going to be like hosing off the sidewalk further down your throat. A lot of people think that by steaming they're actually hydrating their cords, but they're not. Oh. You're putting water on top of the cords, but it's not actually getting into the tissue. In order to hydrate the tissue, you need to have the water actually get into the tissue. And there's only 2 ways to do that. You drink more water, which then systemically will hydrate you, but that takes up to 2 hours. Or you can use a nebulizer. So the nebulizer they're little handheld ones. The one that I have is called My Vocal Mist. And if you go to my website, which is crystalvoicestudio.com, I do have links to all my recommended products there. And there's a link there to my Vocal Mist. I think that's the one I use. You want to make sure that the particle size, the water droplet particle size is small enough that it can cross the mucous membrane border. It literally can, like you inhale it and it can cross into, oh, are you guys still there? My daughter's trying to kill me. It can cross into the vocal folds themselves. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I call that emergency hydration. I need to sing in a half an hour. Drinking a glass of water is not going to get my cords hydrated. And I know, like right now, I should not be singing. I'm dehydrated. So I would nebulize, which I should have done before this meeting, but I didn't because I was dealing with technical issues.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think that's pretty much all I had for you guys.
Great. So we can open up to Q&A right now if you want, Crystal.
Oh, I see. When is the right time to steam, if ever? I do steam. I steam a lot, but I typically will steam for mucus control if I have a lot of stuff in my throat, because remember the neti pot won't get that. So I will steam for, like when I'm sick, I'll steam. When I'm feeling very mucusy because of allergies, I will steam. If I have a sore throat, I will steam just because it's soothing. It makes me feel better, but I don't steam to hydrate my cords.
Got it. I have a question after. See, Gabrielle, if anyone wants to see the alcohol bottle for neti pot, I use it. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Woohoo! You're my kind of girl.
If you want to show that, here, I'll spotlight your video. Yeah.
This is the, but
There
I will say, if you haven't used, if you're not familiar with the neti pot, I would there's different parts per water that you can put it in, but I would start with like the lowest, like it's like 1 part of this and 3 parts water, because it doesn't burn. Yeah, that I was like, it doesn't burn. It's just you build like a tolerance to it, but it's super, super good. And especially I get sinus infections, like everything just gets really congested. So it's so much better than just saline water because it really helps like irrigate it.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I agree.
Thank you. I need that too.
Yeah. So make sure you follow the package instructions and start mild. Just like if you aren't a drinker and your friends take you out drinking, maybe 8 shots is not the first thing that you should do. You know what I mean? Like, just like anything else.
For singers, because I have really bad allergies. I haven't like taken a vocal class in a long time because I moved from musical theater to TV and film. But just for like my knowledge, I have to take like Flonase, and I have a prescription. I have 2 different kind of nasal sprays. One's a Flonase, and then one's a prescription Flonase type of thing. Does that like affect like it's supposed to get, you know, my clearing of my nasal passages or whatever, but would that affect like my vocal cords or my abilities in any way? Would that dry me out? Do you know anything about like Flonase and allergy decongestion?
Yeah. So there's lots of different things. Everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So some people will get dried out on certain medications and not on others.
Okay.
Generally speaking, Sudafed would be a no-no.
Okay.
It's really pretty drying. But like I did all the nasal sprays and none of them worked for me.
Got it.
And I would say that a lot, like nasal sprays do one of 2 things. They either decrease your mucus production, like just dry you up, or they try to block your immune response. It's the antihistamine thing. My understanding, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
I could be inaccurate. So both of those things are good, but if there are things in there still, the neti pot is gonna be the thing. Mechanically wash it out. Yeah.
I gotta do that then, man. I'd rather do that. It's more natural than just being like nasal spray the whole time. So yeah, that's great.
I neti pot every day, and when things get really bad, then I add my allergy pill.
Got it. And then for like Zoom, I've been noticing like my Zoom voice, because I feel like you all can't hear me. I'm just like overstraining, and like you said, the neck like comes out, and I can see like my veins like popping out. So that's something where I think like just talking in a better way of like using, I guess, the diaphragm more. I'm not totally sure, just because.
Yeah, we tend to work too hard. So, and that would be another class, the whole diet. Speaking from your diaphragm thing, which I'm happy to do for you guys.
Yes, please.
What I recommend for those of you that have to Zoom a lot is when you can use headphones and a microphone.
Oh, great. Okay.
It'll give you the feedback that you need, and you'll be hearing the biofeedback. When I'm Zooming and I'm not on my headphones, I get vocally tired.
Okay.
Because we're not used. We're trying. It's our way of trying to connect to the people on the other side of the screen.
Totally.
It's this stuff.
Got it.
Causing us to go right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, is there? Yeah, anybody having some questions?
I saw something in the feed, but it went away.
Oh yeah. So my computer thoughts about lozenges or cough drops.
Yeah. The status quo is that Ricola, that we all love, is not so good for you. Anything with menthol tends to be a little bit of a vocal irritant. But I love my Ricola. So I still sometimes do it, but usually not if I'm going to have a heavy vocal day.
Okay.
Gruther's pastilles.
But I do, what I do have to hesitate actually is either Slippery Elm is good. I also really love to just like gargle with apple cider vinegar.
Oh, you gargle with it?
Yes, TJ, that was the next thing I was going to say. Thank you. The Gruther's pastels are great. I also really like doTERRA. They have 2 different ones. They have On Guard, which helps build it helps
immunity. Yeah, that's great.
And that's my go-to is the On Guard. I just really like it. And then also they have Breathe, which is also, I mean, it's more of a respiratory thing.
Yeah. What are your I know opinions on essential oils and diffusers and stuff at night vary. What are your opinions on those things? Because I know a lot of
I know that I know when I do essential oils and I use a diffuser, I feel better.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a lot of like really documented scientific evidence but I know that there's lots and lots and lots of professional singers who swear by it.
Yeah.
And the blend for that is
It's
lavender, lemon, and frankincense.
correct. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the go-to.
The lavender,
Those three,
like,
and it's kind of like a
yeah, lavender for relaxation, and lemon for like cleansing, and then the frankincense is for inflammation. And frankincense, if you can even apply topically to your throat or bottom of your feet, it gets into your system and does magical things.
Yeah, no, they're definitely good, but I don't know if like the scientific community, if you went to an ENT,
Right.
most ENTs would be like, I don't know.
Right.
But I know when I run my diffuser, my voice feels better.
Yeah, actually,
but I would say that's not the only thing.
Like Dr. Gupta.
Cool.
Yeah, Dr. Gupta was like, oh no, don't do that. You don't want it to get that stuff in your lungs. Like, was totally like a naysayer on essential oils. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do what works for me. And it's always made me feel better. So I agree. I think it's like to each their own. It's an individual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions for Crystal? Any more questions out there? You can put in the chat or you can raise your hand. Going once.
I think I want to move to San Francisco. I kind of like how I look right now.
Hey, you look really good in there, but then we would miss you too much. So, you know, I guess with Zoom it makes it easier, but still, just knowing.
I know. No, I'm liking the vibe. The more I'm sitting here on the Golden Gate Bridge, the more I kind of like it.
Hey, it gets really cloudy over there. I don't know.
Yeah, and cold.
Well, thank you so much, Crystal. It looks like, oh, Gabrielle, you have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really quick question. Do you have any quick vocal warm-ups or like vocal affectations that we can do before Zoom classes, or just if we're going to be talking a lot, that would maybe help?
Yeah, I can give you a couple like quick ideas to go look at, but that would be kind of probably its own class.
Yeah.
Cool.
Straw phonation. Using the straw. I particularly like straw in water, like bubbles, and lip trills, and vocal slides, like lots and lots of sirens. But again, you want to make sure you're doing it mindfully with the right technique. It's not just like, okay, I'm good. You know, you have to actually have some thoughtfulness and technique going into it. But those, if you stretch your body, like really stretch your body, and do some slides and some lip trills and some straw phonation, you should be able to walk right into anything and succeed.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have our, suggestions for next 2 classes, Crystal.
I'm there.
This is great. Well, any more questions out there before we wrap this up? We have a couple. Any more? Going once, going twice. Okay, and with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Crystal, for your wisdom and all of your words of encouragement during this crazy time that we're living in. So I thank you so much for being here.